Bienvenidos. En el año de 1980, una semana antes del inicio de la cosecha, en los campos de trigo al sur de Inglaterra, asomaron en el cereal varias formas circulares y figuras que hasta el momento no se han podido determinar ni por los científicos ni por los investigadores cuál es su origen. Es decir, se deduce que han sido generados por una enorme fuerza centrípeta, pero no existe una huella que pueda descubrir la génesis oculta de su construcción. Estas enigmáticas figuras han cautivado la atención de casi todo el mundo científico. Muchas son aquellas personas que especulan apasionadamente sobre las posibles causas que habrían originado estas enigmáticas figuras, que a nadie dejan indiferentes. Estas figuras cada vez se están multiplicando en diferentes lugares alrededor de este planeta, y cada vez sus diseños son más complejos y difíciles, por ende, de interpretarlos. Así han sido considerados como ideogramas. Muchas son las personas que han pretendido ser los autores de estas enigmáticas figuras, pero no lo han podido demostrar. Es por eso que no existe una conclusión definitiva. Ahora les presentamos un resumen de un trabajo de investigación realizado alrededor de estas gigantescas figuras en los campos de trigo, realizado por un científico de una forma muy objetiva, Colin Powell. ¿De dónde vienen esos signos que crecen en la hierba? ¿Por qué aparecen en ese lugar? ¿Son de origen natural o hay alguna fuerza oculta que los produce? ¿Se trata de una broma o encierran un significado que escapa a nuestra percepción? ¿Están relacionados con el descubrimiento de ovnis en la región? Vistos desde las alturas, parecen formar parte de un lenguaje críptico, destinado a ser leído por habitantes del cosmos. ¿Es esto cierto o simples especulaciones? Las preguntas son muchas. Sin embargo, investigadores como Colin Andrews sí han podido probar que existen una verdadera evidencia innegable, como por ejemplo con el análisis de los cristales de las plantas que se encuentran dentro de los círculos, o el extraño magnetismo alrededor de las figuras, e incluso un extraño sonido que se presenta cuando aparecen estas figuras sobre los campos de trigo. Evidencias todas innegables. Esta es la primera vez que la televisión ecuatoriana presenta a ustedes imágenes científicas con un real trabajo de investigación sobre lo que está pasando en Inglaterra y 12 países más. El misterio de los círculos que aparecen en los campos de trigo de varios países. Aquí el detalle.
I think the patterns that we're now seeing, evolving, appearing in our fields, have purpose and they have meaning. The patterns are having an effect on people. I feel sure of this. Many people say to me, I've seen this before somewhere. I just cannot recall where, but I've seen this before. It means something to me. And they're right. I think it's locked up. These patterns have an unlocking, maybe the switching on of a particular part of the brain. We'll never know, but I do feel that they are having an effect upon world matters, upon our very lives. And yes, I do believe that the markings themselves are of the most profound importance because they are changing our way of life. They are changing our very being. Well, I saw my first crop circles back in 1983. There were 5 of them, the quintuplet set. Very pretty pattern in itself. But when I approached them and I had a close look at the sheer symmetry, the patterning on the floor that created that particular marking, the engineer in me recognized immediately that there was something else at work here. I have not been, it's not capable of being passed by. I had a very, almost threshold pain level, a feeling in my stomach when I saw that, and it was the beginning, the very beginning for me. It's been a quest ever since. I recognized something, saw something of sheer beauty, something which arrived there. There was no question whatsoever. It wasn't a flinching glance of a UFO or whatever. It was there on the ground in front of me, physical. It had happened. How did it get there? And the engineer recognized something which was very different to anything I'd ever seen, and it is just incapable of being passed by. From that day until this, I continue to feel compelled to know much more about what's going on, and I am also as sure now as I was then that it is something of the greatest of importance. The crop circle is an area of compressed and spiral vegetation, usually cereal crops. We know not the reason for that, but primarily cereal crops, and the circular motion, the patterning on the ground is precise, it's symmetrically precise, it's extraordinarily pretty. The cut-off points around the perimeter, the circumference of these circles, are very well defined. It is as if a cookie cutter has been used from above and cut a circle into butter. It's that precise. It isn't a random event. It isn't as if the edges may possibly conceivably be associated with a whirlwind of a kind, a natural meteorological phenomenon. It isn't like that. And as the many hundreds now and many thousands of people are seeing these markings all around the world, but particularly here in southern England, most of them would agree. This is purposeful because it is so symbolic. It must have meaning. Crop formations have been discovered in many parts of the world, from Australia, USSR, Canada, USA, Italy, Germany, Afghanistan, Turkey, Norway and Japan. 80% of the global total have occurred in the United Kingdom. 75% of these arrive in a small area of central southern England, forming a perfect equilateral triangle between the towns of Wantage, Winchester and Warminster. Over the years we have been mapping the locations of the crop markings to build up a picture of the densities of distribution, and it is astonishing to see the relationship between the crop formations and the wealth of archaeological sites within this same area, including Avebury, Stonehenge and Silbury Hill. In the beginning there was a simple single circle. These continued to appear in small numbers throughout the landscape of southern England until 1978, when we saw the arrival of 5 circles falling across. This marked the beginning of a continuous evolutionary development. Circles were recorded with single rings, double rings, and even triple rings. Triple circles forming equilateral triangles, and some even in a straight line. From a simple cross form arrived a tremendous, complex, beautiful Celtic cross. I had a phone call from Jeff Smith right here, telling me that close to a double-ringed circle, which we knew about and had fully investigated, he was harvesting and had discovered this amazing formation. And there is no, I would put my life on that formation as being totally genuine in every sense. It arrived from a source I don't yet understand. But I had laid in bed the night prior to this and had wished for a marking of this kind to arrive at a location close to my home, which would enable detailed investigation without the travelling across southern England, which we were having to do, but of course at great cost and a loss of time with the limited resource. And to my utter amazement, in the morning I received this phone call from Jeff Smith telling me of the pattern which I had visualized in this very field here. I will never forget the emotion which came over me when I looked down out of that aircraft and saw that cross. I could see the complexity of its construction, and nobody could doubt the authenticity of that arrival.
Aunque el fenómeno de la extraña aparición de estas trípticas formas se haya extendido ya por todo el mundo, desde Alemania hasta el Japón, considero que este enigma sigue siendo típicamente británico. Hoy, después de una década, se puede decir que todo el fenómeno de los círculos que han aparecido al sur de Inglaterra y en otras partes de nuestro planeta responde a un lenguaje ideográfico, un lenguaje que tal vez nunca llegaremos a descifrar o que nunca lo entenderemos, pero tiene suficiente importancia como para tener a especialistas, investigadores, científicos, fanáticos y escépticos pendientes de lo que allí está sucediendo. Cuando empezaron a aparecer repentinamente estos círculos, eran tan solo figuras que llegaban a los 3 metros, pero con el pasar del tiempo se han ido multiplicando en figuras que llegan incluso a los 180 metros de distancia, y por ende cada vez se han hecho más complejos sus trazados y más difíciles de entender.
I wanted a Celtic cross along for that formation, because I could see structurally it was an evolutionary step, a progressive step from the simple cross which we had already seen. And in addition to that, it has such powerful meaning. The Celts themselves clearly had reason. Something happened to the consciousness of man around the Celtic period, and all that we see around that period involved the carving, the drawings, the paintings, the praying to this same form, including spiraling within those circles which structured the cross. Something of great importance happened then. They had great feeling and meaning, and indeed it was something that I felt was possible.
It's a single circle with a pathway, is it? At Way Hill? Yeah, actually I'm not too far away from there right now. Yeah, so I'll go directly there and, yeah, that's fine, and you will fly it, will you? Okay, Pat, yeah, we'll see what we've got. Thanks, Sam, bye-bye.
I've often wondered, why me? Why did I find myself being one of only 3 people in the world 10 years ago, focusing my attention on these markings? Other people were driving by. Others weren't even giving those beautiful patterns a second glance. I not only had glanced, I had thoroughly looked, investigated, photographed for nearly a decade. I appreciated, it was more than appreciation, we had something here of importance, tremendous importance, but nobody appeared to be listening. Just nobody was listening. But now, of course, in communicating this widely around the world, suddenly there is an awakening, and we have now offers of scientific assistance, and hundreds, thousands of people are now tremendously intrigued and involved in trying to unravel the mystery of these circles.
Our database at Circles Phenomenon Research contains nearly 3,000 crop circle reports. The fieldwork has involved soil and plant analysis, extensive ground, aerial and infrared photography, precise measurements, radiation and magnetic field readings, as well as computer support. It is only by detailed fieldwork that the authenticity of these crop markings have been verified.
Well, I know they're not A, hoaxes, and they're not B, the win, because we had one night we were out walking the crops actually until 10 o'clock at night, and we were walking actually right through the area that one circle appeared in the next morning, and I was out there at 6:30 the next morning when the circle appeared, and it happened right through where we'd been walking the night before. And we'd had a thunderstorm overnight and made the ground very sticky. So while we were walking through it in the morning, our boots were stuck up with mud. And when we got to the circle, it'd been a heavy dew as well, and the crop was let down, covered in dew. There was no marks in it whatsoever, and where we'd been walking down the wheel marks, we'd left chalk prints on the leaves of all the plants. So the leaves had no signs of any chalk prints on them or anything. And the dew was all settled, there was not a sign of any disturbance whatsoever.
We have here in central southern England a strata of chalk and surface limey soil, which when wet will positively leave footprints. When dry, they will leave nodules of dried soil which will crumble to powder by the lightest touch. Now in both conditions, human presence will be detected, and none are in the crop circles. We have plants which bruise easily, oilseed rape plants bruise extremely easily, and will snap off like celery when pushed over by human feet, ropes or chains or any other method which people may well feel inclined to try, and they will find that again those plants will not perform in the same way as these extraordinary circles are performing. The new decade heralded the discovery of a formation which would polarize thinking and coin a new phrase, pictogram. This new family pattern was probably the most pronounced evolutionary step yet, which led within reach to something much more dramatic. Additional fingers, boxes and rings. The sky was the limit, capped in the closing weeks of the season with a breathtaking pattern at Forley Down in Hampshire, which was to leave us the winter to contemplate what might occur the following year. 1991 saw a reduction in simple forms, but a consistency of complexity which included a strong suggestion of insect and animal shapes, dolphins, beetles, and other unusual shapes that we are still studying. There are other phenomena which we believe may be associated with this particular phenomenon, and I can tell you about a few of them. Several people have reported seeing tubes, beams of light emanating from a source in the sky and pushing down through the dark sky into the fields in which crop circles have either already occurred or are discovered the next morning. Approach the edge of the circle, just look and see what happens to the rods. I've taken the inserts out of these two fountain pens to demonstrate you don't need physical contact with the rods to achieve the same reaction. I'm approaching the circle now, and on the edge of it now you see that reaction.
We use the rods if we've got broken water pipes underground which we can't find. We usually use the dowsing rods just to find out exactly where they are, and they're usually pretty accurate as to where the pipe runs. So as a matter of interest, we've just took them out into the circles to just see if they react to them at all, and sure enough they do. As we approach the circle, the dowsing rods open out as we get to the outside the circle, and then when we get into the middle they cross right over, right above the core of the circle.
What we have here are energies which have total respect for nature, and this is what I mean. These plants lying in sympathy with all of those around, flowing here like water running down a stream, totally undamaged, absolutely natural in every respect. Even here, a pigeon's feather lodged in position and in sympathy with the flow. Another example of these energies is right here. This plant has been compressed to the ground for over a week. What has happened to give it such vitality? Comparing it with its neighbour nearby, looking sick in every respect. Undeniable evidence, something important is happening.
La verdad es que son muchos los enigmas que encierran estas figuras. La energía magnética que se detectó en el centro de los círculos, los sonidos que han sido registrados también, su significado desconocido, ¿puede ser tal vez un código proveniente del exterior? Pero si fuera un mensaje extraterrestre, ¿por qué escogieron este sistema de comunicación y no otro menos complejo? ¿De qué nos hablan? ¿O acaso pretenden llamar nuestra atención? Y la pregunta clave, ¿son terrestres o extraterrestres? Pero no está sucediendo solamente esto en los campos de trigo. Se los ha observado también en varios sembríos de avena, maíz, cebada y colza. Según el científico Terence Milden, que es otro gran investigador de este fenómeno, estas figuras no solamente están apareciendo en los campos de cultivo, sino también sobre la tierra arada, la nieve, la arena, el agua de mar, la hierba recubierta de escarcha inclusive.
The plants themselves have been analysed through a very advanced German process, through one laboratory, the only laboratory in this country at the moment capable of undertaking that particular analytical examination. And what has been discovered there, again, is undeniable evidence that the plants are going through a change in their crystalline structure.
We run a lab in Stroud, in Gloucestershire, where we evaluate samples from patients, for various practitioners. And from the energy patterns seen in the samples, you can tell the condition of various organs in the body. We got very interested in the crop circles, and because you can do this process with plants and herbs as well, because anything living has its own energy structures and patterns, we decided that we would go and get a few samples from the crop circles and put them through the process. Well, we did this, and we really weren't expecting to see anything. It was just idle curiosity, really. We came back and we put these samples through. We found, to our amazement, that anything that came out of the pictogram or the circle had a different energy to that of the control sample.
And this can be confirmed by examining a slide of the energy pattern of the unaffected corn taken from a control sample outside the crop circle. All our control samples show this same uniform pattern. However, when we take a sample of corn from within the circle, you can see that there is a dramatic difference in the energy pattern of the crop, as if the crop has been affected by a very high level of energy, something that is impossible to fake. A third sample taken from within the same crop circle 6 weeks after its formation shows that the original energy pattern of the corn is starting to reappear as the energy which created the circle gradually subsides.
We have found over the years that some people need to be satisfied that we are looking at a real phenomenon. Now, human trait as it is, clearly there have been circles created by man, and those are very easily discernible. We have a vast network of people now reporting these markings to us, and we follow them up quickly, primarily and initially by aerial surveillance.
Hi Steve. Okay, so we start off Chestwood Head, a couple of orbits around there, then we'll head up north, up to Avebury, and then head back down, and you want to maybe have a look at Stonehenge?
That's
on the way
right.
back?
Yes, that's possible.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got a couple nearby just to say. Ever since I first became aware of the crop circle phenomenon, I have been working closely with local pilots who know this area very well indeed. And with their help, I have monitored and recorded a tremendous increase in crop formations from under 30 in 1983, 70 in 1987, reaching a staggering 500 in the summer of 1990. Not only the quantities have increased, the densities have now grown to as many as 30 in 10 acres of field, compared to 5 or so in a square mile just 4 years ago. The dimensions too have increased, ranging from 60 feet diameter circles in the early 80s to formations over 400 feet long in the last 2 years. The patterns from the air are awe-inspiring, tremendous graphic patterns of extreme and yet delicate beauty nestling in the landscape. Many would never have been spotted from the ground. Only in the air can the scale of the phenomenon be appreciated. The aircraft is invaluable for aerial surveillance and photography. Each circle has a fingerprint pattern which is recorded from the sky and entered into computer. We have seen a positive evolutionary period. Nobody now doubts that. Some did, particularly well-known scientists in this country, doubted the fact that we were looking at an evolutionary tendency in the patterning some years ago. That has now proven itself. We are now beyond that. These patterns are evolving at a very rapid rate. They're becoming so complex, so symbolic, so obvious that they cannot any longer be ignored. We don't have to learn whether it's an A, a B, a C or a D, or whether it means black or white. The meaning is automatic. The consciousness of man is being affected directly by the input of the pattern into the mind itself. Appreciation of nature is of paramount importance. Focus the attention of the people on the patterns and where they are occurring. Most important. The patterns themselves have more meaning than we will ever understand and probably will ever know. But whilst we're studying it, whilst the people are looking and thinking and wondering, the effect is underway. People are meeting, they are making friends, they are recognizing their place in nature and the place of the crop circle itself.
We had heard of crop circles. A neighbouring farm had had 2 simple circles, but we hadn't had any. We'd maybe read a little bit about them in the papers, but we certainly didn't know very much about them. And on the 12th of July we were driving to Marlborough quite early in the morning, and we saw it and stopped the car and went up on the hill which overlooks it, by which time of course other members of the farm staff had seen it as well. And we were excited and didn't know what to do, and I remember that there were people that were investigating these circles. So we came back to the house and then started to try and report this thing. I rang various bodies. I rang the police, the Citizens Advice Bureau, ADAS, which is an Agricultural Advisory Service. And nobody seemed to know what I was supposed to do about this. And then I rang MAF, the Ministry of Agriculture, and as luck would have it, the lady that answered the phone was herself interested in crop circles and knew Colin Andrews' telephone number. And she gave it to me. I telephoned him and he came pretty well straight away actually. He also then gave me other phone numbers and we notified other experts. He came along and was extremely excited. He then told us that as far as he knew it was the most complex, sophisticated crop circle ever found in the world. The people who come seem really genuinely interested in the phenomena. Fascinated by it. As for what they get out of it, we get all sorts of reactions. We do get, I think the most common reaction, and certainly the one that I feel as well, is these things seem to bring people together in a very happy way. Quite often there are lots of people in these circles, and there are groups of total strangers stood around having the most animated conversations they've ever met in their lives. And it's all very friendly and happy, and it's almost a bit like a carnival sort of atmosphere.
Aparentemente este fenómeno es más antiguo de lo que se supone. No obstante, a partir de 1980 se han venido formulando una serie de hipótesis para tratar de aclarar su origen. A decir de algunos de los detractores frente a este tema, los crop circles de Inglaterra estarían relacionados tal vez con un problema de origen agrícola, ya que podrían ser provocados por un desorden químico del suelo arcilloso causado por el abuso de fertilizantes, lo que haría crecer los cultivos en un punto más que en otro. Pero esto dejaría sin explicar las perfectas formas geométricas de estas figuras. ¿Se trataría entonces de una simple broma de estudiantes como en alguna ocasión se nos pretendió hacer creer? ¿O estarían relacionadas con alguna forma inteligente, no humana, posiblemente extraterrena.
I have been certainly criticised by some of the scientific fraternity and my engineering type colleagues for stating now quite categorically intelligence is involved because the evidence is there for all of them to see. We were looking at, as we said earlier, some years ago, at simple single circles. We, I believe, are looking at an interface, the very point at which this dimension is affected by another dimension.
That's a terrible noise, just as you stand in the centre.
You're getting a noise there, Richard?
Very, very bad indeed.
Yeah, I can hear it here. I can feel it here.
This is our old friend back
It is. Yeah. There, that's it.
I was coordinating the first and then the largest surveillance operation ever conducted into fringe phenomena of any kind anywhere in the world. It was called Operation White Crow 2 years ago, close to Winchester, looking into that natural amphitheatre called Chesfoot Head, a location where crop circles have appeared certainly for sure almost pretty well every year for 12 years. Having said that, we haven't actually seen one of these this year, although we have now 91 formations in Wiltshire and this county of varying types. The surveillance didn't stop. It was running day and night, 24 hours a day. What happened there was also of great importance. At about 20 past midnight, on the very last night, running into the final hours of Operation White Crow, this very same noise, this buzzing, cricket-like, the patterns, some would say the signs, are becoming so intricate, so meaningful, something must be in a hurry. The whole phenomenon is on an exponential course. All scientists recognize a curve of that kind when they see it, and we're looking at a phenomenon which is now not only evolving in its patterning, we are looking at densities which are increasing, many more circles appearing in small areas. We have fields as many as 30 in 10 acres of field. We're looking at the physical size of the formations increasing, some as large as 400 feet across. That's exponential. I'm absolutely sure in my own mind, as sure as I can be, that we have entered a phase where we have the last chance to live with Mother Planet.
Pues los fertilizantes, aún distribuidos en el suelo de modo uniforme, serían incapaces de trazar estas figuras, como si usaran regla y compás. Al principio, también se hizo responsable del acontecimiento a un hongo obstinado, llamado comúnmente micelio anular. Este hongo, culpable de lo que se denomina anillos de hadas, puede causar la caída de los cereales, haciendo que las espigas tomen a veces formas asombrosas. Su acción se realiza a partir de un punto determinado, reproduciéndose hacia todos los lados, formando un círculo. Pero este nunca es tan definido como los que se observan en Inglaterra y en otros 12 países. La aparición de triplets y quíntuplets terminó con esta hipótesis. Sobre el origen animal, como la zona está poblada por topos y erizos, muchos creyeron ver la acción de estos últimos animalitos en la creación de los círculos. Como la formación de estos coincide con la época de celo de los erizos, muchos atribuyeron a sus danzas nupciales la existencia del cereal aplastado, ya que en estas danzas el macho corre alrededor de la hembra. La explicación fue desechada enseguida, pues no hay huellas de que atestiguen la presencia de esos animales. En cuanto a la voz de la arqueología, tenemos que esta región de Inglaterra, al sudoeste de Londres, es rica en ruinas megalíticas. Allí están los antiguos monumentos circulares de Stonehenge y Avebury. Si en el subsuelo hubiese ruinas, eso se reflejaría en la vegetación, haciendo que no fuese del todo uniforme. Los arqueólogos, en efecto, se han guiado muchas veces por las anormalidades que presentaban algunos pastos para cavar y hallar restos de civilizaciones perdidas. Por eso se especuló con la posibilidad de que ciertos yacimientos hubiesen aflorado por algún movimiento tectónico hasta el punto de influir en los cultivos de cereales. Pero la multiplicación de los redondeles descartó rápidamente esta hipótesis temprana. Sobre el factor meteorológico se ha asegurado también que el autor de todo es el viento, que en esta región suele alcanzar magnitudes respetables, aunque, claro, casi nunca en verano. De todas formas, hay quienes certifican que los tornados o vórtices que se forman en las laderas de las suaves colinas puede ser el agente motivador. En esos lugares el aire empieza a girar y desciende con violencia hacia el suelo. De esa forma, el viento empuja a las espigas haciéndoles tomar la forma de espiral. Cuando el tornado pierde fuerza, queda marcado un círculo en el sitio en el cual se manifestó. Esta teoría denominada plasma de los remolinos, no obstante, y a pesar de proporcionar una explicación incompleta, pues se trata de la hipótesis con más contenido científico de cuantas se han formulado hasta ahora.
Another planet is in serious trouble, and we can do something about it. We have the final opportunity to put things right. We have got to learn to harmonize. We have to learn our place in nature. That's where I believe this is all going. And that's why it is so important to humanity that we study and participate. We share this tremendous time when the signs have arrived.
Una mezcla de indignación y pena genera en nosotros, quienes investigamos el fenómeno OVNI de una forma objetiva y clara, cuando observamos que ciertos medios de comunicación se prestan para difundir argumentos que minimizan y subestiman nuestra capacidad de discernir, que la tenemos como seres humanos, y nos tratan como si fuéramos seres tan, pero tan ingenuos, que nos entregan una información totalmente manipulada de acuerdo a sus intereses. La misma que, lejos de llevarnos a una reflexión de interpretación científica del fenómeno, lo ridiculizan con sus pobres argumentos. Es así como a lo largo de toda la historia de la formación de estos ideogramas mundialmente conocidos como los crop circles, hasta el momento han asomado más de 30 supuestas personas creadoras de estos círculos.
Gente inescrupulosa que vende a las estaciones de televisión sus videos forjados en 5 y hasta $10,000. Granjeros que bajo el efecto del alcohol tratan de hacer una rampa protagónica alrededor de este fenómeno. Frente a la investigación de estos ideogramas es necesario exponer argumentos inteligentes, objetivos y claros para poder compartir con el público una información real. Pero lastimosamente existen pseudo-investigadores patrocinados por grupos místicos, esotéricos y algunos con prejuicios dogmáticos, interesados en echar una cortina de humo sobre estos sucesos que revelan notoria importancia para la humanidad del siglo XXI. Estos pseudo-investigadores confunden e inventan teorías en lugar de ofrecer una visión más clara de una situación por demás compleja.
Llevamos la cámara. Ellos brincaron la reja y nosotros grabamos desde ahí.
Es perfecto. ¿Puedes vernos?
La noche hace que la luz se intensifique, como una lente de infrarrojo, y se alcanza a ver a través de la oscuridad, sin que nadie lo note.
Creo que este es un buen lugar.
Llevamos radios, ya que no podíamos gritar en el sembradío a medianoche.
Toma esa cuerda. Esto será el centro.
Es muy sencillo. Todo se hace con una cuerda. Entonces comienzo a caminar varios metros según el tamaño del círculo.
Muévete en círculos lentamente. Espera. Bien. ¿Estás lista? Vamos.
La otra persona se queda en un solo lugar. Y la otra comienza a caminar en círculos para marcar el perímetro. Cuando se marca el perímetro, comienzan a derrumbar todo el trigal.
En cuanto a que los círculos sean una broma muy hábil, tenemos que cuando dos agricultores británicos se declararon ser los autores de estos, se creyó resuelto el misterio. Pero si somos objetivos, los miles de círculos descubiertos desde 1978 no pueden atribuirse simplemente a la voluntad de chanza de ciertas personas. En los últimos tiempos han aparecido más de 750 ideogramas en más de 14 países alrededor del mundo, algunos de los cuales tienen hasta 125 metros de largo y más de 80 metros de diámetro, y su distribución geográfica está separada por miles de kilómetros. Además, se comunicó el advenimiento de redondeles similares en por lo menos 30 países, lo cual parece demasiado desmesurado para una broma. Al respecto, tenemos la opinión de Sixto Paz.
En Inglaterra, la gente frente a los círculos es más otra gente de otros países la que se conmueve con los círculos en el sur de Inglaterra que los propios ingleses. He estado también hace cuestión de 6 meses ahí en los círculos y son extranjeros que van a visitarlo más que los propios ingleses, que lo ven como algo turístico, algo interesante, pero no que de alguna manera les lleva a una reflexión interior. El caso de Bélgica es un aporte al fenómeno OVNI a nivel mundial, pues son testigos oficiales de la Fuerza Aérea Belga, ¿no? El propio rey Balduino, ¿no?, que se pronunció a favor, pero el pueblo como que todavía mayormente le resulta medio indiferente el asunto, ¿no? Medio como que no le inquieta, o sea, se mueven más a un nivel de altas esferas que sí están tremendamente preocupados porque ellos tienen responsabilidades.
En el video hemos visto cómo este fenómeno, que fue conocido en torno a los años 80, apareció repentinamente. Primero, eran simples círculos de 3 metros que con los años se fueron transformando en grandes círculos con más de 100 metros de largo y hasta 80 metros de diámetro, y con figuras cada vez más complejas y difíciles de entender. Lo cierto es que al analizar las figuras de Inglaterra, lo primero que nos llama la atención es que muchas de ellas ya las encontramos en el origen de nuestras expresiones gráficas, imágenes que hemos utilizado para comunicarnos y que denominamos pictogramas e ideogramas. Por ejemplo, los diseños circulares, los círculos con anillos, los círculos concéntricos o bien los círculos unidos por ejes son perfectamente conocidos entre las manifestaciones ideográficas de nuestras antiguas culturas, como la cultura megalítica de Inglaterra. Pero tal vez muchas personas se estén preguntando, ¿qué es un ideograma? Un ideograma es un diseño que forma una idea. Veamos primero un pictograma, un diseño que solo representa la misma figura. En este caso, el dibujo de una serpiente expresaría a la misma serpiente. En cambio, en un ideograma, la serpiente expresaría una idea. Podría ser la idea de la medicina, del mal o del bien. O, como en los antiguos egipcios, los faraones representaban a sus dioses. En nuestro alfabeto, estos diseños se han convertido en puros signos fonéticos, en los sonidos de las letras. Observemos cómo en este caso la letra S o Z, similar a una serpiente, busca representar el sonido de estos reptiles. También las formas circulares están presentes en el origen de muchas escrituras. Veamos por ejemplo en los jeroglíficos egipcios, en donde el dios Ram, el dios solar, está representado por un círculo. Tenemos muchos lenguajes ideográficos radicados en nuestro pasado histórico y que no han sido descifrados todavía, o tan solo parcialmente. Las antiguas escrituras esperan ser aclaradas, transcritas por los especialistas, pero son necesarias muchas investigaciones para poder comprender un mensaje escrito en ideogramas sin tener nociones de la lengua a la que pertenecen. Imaginémonos por un momento que un extraterrestre descubre un mensaje con la palabra SOS, o una fórmula química, o un pentagrama musical.
¿Cómo lo va a descifrar si no tienen el equivalente de las formas o de las notas musicales? Nos preguntamos cuánto tiempo precisaría una mente extraterrestre que viniese a nuestro planeta para llegar a descubrir que acá nuestros científicos determinan un círculo con una cruz a una mujer y un círculo con una flecha al hombre. Si el conjunto de imágenes del sur de Inglaterra y de otros lugares de nuestro mundo es un lenguaje ideográfico o es un mensaje codificado, deberíamos buscar su estructura para intentar descifrarlos. En verdad, los ufólogos de todo el mundo estamos de acuerdo en que por primera vez nos encontramos con un hecho que no necesita ser probado. Los círculos están allí, fotografiables, videograbables, para ser estudiados, investigados y analizados, para arrancarles su secreto, su real significado. Soy Jaime Rodríguez, un abrazo, los espero en nuestro próximo programa de la serie OVNI. Y recuérdelo, no lo crea, tampoco lo niegue, investíguelo.